Kobe has it.
Kobe has it. Okay.
Sorry, I'm taking away here.
I see you got this started up again. The drawers opening up again.
Are they?
It makes sure to keep me here because I like to grip. So it just kind of all of a sudden. Whatever works. Whatever works. Oh, that's it. I already did that.
Okay. Hi everyone. Okay, we're live. Give me 1 second. I just wanna.
Are we live?
No.
Hi. Talk to them. Okay. Hi, it's Daniela. Welcome to Spring. And welcome to Elixir Kitchen. Geremy will be with us just 1 second. We have a special guest that we want to introduce today, but I'm going to let Geremy have the honors to do that.
Right, sorry, we're good. We're here. Thank you, Daniela. Yes, today is March 20th. Thanks for joining us. It is also Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month. And so we are joined by a special guest, the co-founder of Colorectal Cancer Canada, Bunny Schwartz. And we'll introduce Bunny. He's ready to come up. Thanks for joining us, Bunny. And yeah, thanks for coming.
Thank you. Pleasure. Nice to meet you.
Yes.
Okay, good day, everyone. And thank you, Geremy, for
Thank you.
inviting us. I'm happy to be here today on behalf of Colorectal Cancer Canada. For those of you who may not be familiar with us, we're a non-profit organization dedicated to supporting patients, survivors, caregivers, and families affected by colon cancer. Our mission is to raise awareness, provide trusted information, and advocate for better prevention. Early detection is very important, and access to care from diagnosis and beyond. We're excited to be partnering on this event day, as we believe that by coming together, sharing our knowledge, and fostering connections is essential in making a difference. If you'd like to learn more about what we do or connect with our team, please don't hesitate to come see me at the table. And my partner, Julie, is with us today. And have a great cooking session.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Bunny. Thank you, Bunny. And also for those watching at home, we'll be sure to post a lot of the links and resources that Colorectal Cancer Canada has on their website so that you can access them virtually as well. But yes, thanks again, Bunny. Today, our focus is going to be on colorectal cancer awareness, and we're going to talk about some nutrition and support with our cooking as well.
Yeah. So I really want to thank Bunny for all the work she does with Colorectal Cancer Canada, your advocacy, the resources, and the connection, and connecting with us. It's so important, the collaboration. In honor of Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, as Geremy has just said, we are going to showcase recipes that help reduce the risk of cancer, of colorectal cancer, all cancers, a lot of cancers, specifically colorectal cancer. And what we're going to do is look at how we can reduce intake of red meats, and also how we could bump up the fiber intake, our plant food intake. What does a plant-forward diet mean? Along with this, though, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that March is also Nutrition Month. And the theme this year, and actually for the next couple of years, is Nourish to Flourish. And what we are saying with Nourish to Flourish is that we want to recognize the importance of food and nutrition when it comes to the health of our body and function of our body, but we also go beyond the physiological health, and I know Colorectal Cancer Canada does this too, in looking at emotional resilience, mental health, and fostering social and cultural connection. And that is also what we hope to do with Elixir Kitchen. So hopefully the audience, you can let us know if that's what we're doing correctly. But that's enough of Nutrition Month for now.
Yeah.
We need to get to the recipes. You can, those of you that are here can smell the smells, the aroma. It's beautiful. So our first recipe is a cheesy egg breakfast taco. And although red meat, as I mentioned earlier, we want to reduce our intake of red meat, it still is a good part of our diet because it has protein, iron, and vitamin B12. But eating pork, beef, lamb, or goat every single day at every single meal has found to be too much for us and can increase the risk of colorectal cancer. And the guidelines recommend that we eat no more than 3 servings per week of red meat. And that could be, when we talk about a serving, I forgot to bring my deck of cards, it's like the palm of your hand or the size of a deck of cards. So if we're cutting back on red meat, we do have to replace it with another type of protein because protein is important for healing. So what protein options do you think we could include? I'm going to ask our audience. If we don't have red meat, what else can we include? Egg, yeah. Cottage cheese, beautiful, beautiful. Fish, excellent, excellent. Beans, yeah. Lentils, excellent. Wow, this group's got it all.
Red meat?
Pork.
Is pork red meat?
Yeah, I know, we get that question a lot, but it falls into that category. You can still have it, you just can't have it all the time.
Right.
Yeah, poultry. Poultry would be fine too. Yeah, excellent. We have a great group.
Love it.
So this recipe, you can tell in the title, it's actually showcasing eggs. Eggs are a high quality protein. It also is rich in other nutrients like selenium, choline. It also has vitamin B12, and it has some vitamin D, and we'll talk a bit more about that. And although there isn't strong evidence for this, there is some evidence that vitamin D can help with risk reduction for colorectal cancer. Okay, off to you, Geremy.
Fantastic. Thanks, Daniela. You mentioned a few proteins that we're going to be using today, which is perfect. We've lined this up beautifully. The first recipe that I want to showcase is it's a breakfast taco. I love it because of its simplicity. And they essentially use feta cheese to create like a base and then crack an egg inside. So I loved it so much. I tried it a few times. It's sort of a go-to if I need a really quick breakfast that is higher in protein. We're going to make a few switches, a few little twists on it to make it a little bit easier, a little more accessible. And we're highlighting, instead of feta cheese, which you can absolutely use here, we're using cottage cheese, but not just any cottage cheese. This is one of my favorite versions of it. It's a dry pressed cottage cheese.
Never heard of it.
Yes, so it is the same thing, but essentially it's been pressed so that all or most of the moisture, a lot of the moisture, has been removed. So it has the consistency of like just a dry, crumbled sort of feta cheese.
Where are you getting that?
So you can find this in Farm Boy Metro. I found mine at No Frills. It will be in the section where cottage cheese is, in the refrigerator section, where you have your tubs of cottage cheese. You will see this. If it's there, you might have to ask the grocer. And it'll come sort of vacuum packed in a package. Exactly.
Okay.
But it would be beside your regular tubs of cottage cheese. Yes, question?
What is the benefit of having it pressed? Is it just that lasts longer or just consistency?
So in terms of lasting longer, it's probably going to be similar, but because there's not as much moisture, it probably would last a little bit longer. Your protein count per serving, and I'll look at Daniela, is probably, I guess, a little bit higher.
Yeah, because you've removed a lot of the moisture. It's going to concentrate that a bit.
Yes. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about it in a second.
Okay.
But I want to get it started. So the first thing we're going to do, so essentially you would make a mound in your pan, a non-stick pan. But I want to show you an easier way, especially if you don't have a non-stick pan. We're relying on my favorite tool of all.
Is it a surprise?
Yes, no, yeah. Most of you probably know it's parchment paper, okay? So I have just a regular stainless steel pan here. I'm going to take a piece of parchment paper about, the size of my stainless steel pen.
Okay, that's new.
Right?
Cutting it with a knife. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, you can use scissors. You don't have to use a knife. You can use scissors. And I'll save this for another use later. But I have my pen. And Kobe, if you don't mind, coming in on the pan shot, number 3. We have a new director here in the audience. Okay, so...
I lost the rights to the
Not that you weren't doing a good job. Okay, so we have our piece of parchment right in the pen, and I have it about medium heat to medium-high heat. You can sort of adjust depending on your stove. And I'm going to take my dry pressed cottage cheese. Again, you can use cheddar, you can use feta cheese. A lower moisture cheese I find helps. If you have something that's a little more on the wet side, like a traditional cottage cheese, it makes a bit of a mess because it starts to push a lot of the water out, okay? So we're going to, and you know what? You can actually do this to make it a little safer. You can do this on the cutting board. Number 2, perfect. So I'm essentially just using my spoon to make a little bit of a, almost like a circle shape, right? So that it gives me some space to crack my egg into.
It's like a well.
Yeah, like a little well. Exactly. Right? So about a couple tablespoons, 2 to 3 tablespoons. And what's nice, again, about with the parchment is I can just kind of bring it back and forth as I need. And we're going to put it directly on top, but at medium-high heat. And I want this to start melting and bubbling and to create like sort of this caramelized crust. Okay? In the middle of that well is where I'm going to crack my egg. So, egg right in the middle. Do it carefully. If it spills over a bit, don't worry about it.
I missed, do you
There we
already
go.
have the heat on?
Yes, medium-high.
Medium-high heat, okay.
Yeah.
I missed that.
Yeah, so, and we're going to cook this for about, until you start to see it bubbling, then you'll see I'm going to put the lid on top. But we're going to cook it for about 5 minutes or so. Okay? I'll throw it back to you
Sure.
for a second. Yeah.
Okay. What I like about this recipe is that it's actually a single serving, right? So many times we get questions about I live alone. If I prepare this food, I don't want to eat it over and over again. I get tired of eating it over and over again. So making this is a great serving for one person. It's high in protein. So that's what I love about it. The other thing we can talk about is I mentioned a little bit about protein, and there are some directions that, and we also get asked, how much protein should I have, right? How much protein in a meal? And so there is some guidance that having about 20 grams of protein per meal is good. And so doing a little bit of quick math, if we're looking at our egg and our pressed cottage cheese, 1 egg has about 7 grams of protein. And then a regular half cup of cottage cheese has about 14 grams of protein. This is pressed, so it's going a bit more concentrated, so less than a half. So doing math, 14, 21. So we're actually getting a good amount of protein in this dish.
Yeah, absolutely. So if we can zoom back in here, I've got some, without tilting it too much, I've got some bubbling action. So it's starting to melt the cheese. And what I'm going to do at this point is take a lid, take a different one, it's a little bit larger than my pen, and just cover the top. If you want to add a little bit of salt and pepper, which I did, a little bit of olive oil, you can do that as well. I don't need too much, maybe like a teaspoon or 2. And we'll put the lid on top to finish. Now, in terms of toppings, this is, completely up to you. You can throw avocado on there. You can throw, I have some cherry tomatoes. Maybe if you want to throw some spinach. If you like a little bit of spicy, you can throw a little bit of hot sauce. Like, this is where you can kind of play around with it a little bit. But in terms of that protein piece, it's very simple. We're going to cook it on that parchment, and then we can easily transfer it over to a piece of toast, or we're going to be using a tortilla for this. Now, in terms of eggs, I know that has been coming up quite a bit in the news recently. This is 1 egg for this serving. There are other options as well that obviously you can use. I haven't seen as much of a fluctuation in price point for eggs here. So, use what works best for you. In terms of the cheese, the cottage cheese, the pressed cottage cheese I find a pretty similar price point to your regular tubbed cottage cheese, but because it doesn't have as much moisture in it, it actually stretches a little bit longer as well. Pressed cottage cheese also freezes really well because it doesn't have the moisture that you do find in a regular cottage cheese. So you can freeze the rest of it, crumble it up and freeze the rest of it, and you're good to go.
I'm also assuming it's more flavorful with the water being removed.
So it's actually very bland.
Oh, it's very bland.
So,
Okay.
but I say that in not a disparaging way. It's in terms of feta, because texturally it's going to be very similar to feta. Feta is a brined cheese, so it has more of that salinity. It has that flavor, that saltiness to it. Whereas the cottage cheese, the pressed cottage cheese, does not. So it allows you to add flavor, right? It allows you to add flavor, and you're in control. So I add a little bit of salt because I know that there really is very minimal salt in the pressed cottage cheese. It's kind of like the tofu of cottage cheese. Yeah, absolutely. So you can sort of play around with it. No, not even close. Yeah, it's very, very mild. So you can sort of adjust the seasoning.
So that's good then, because
Yes.
you can determine if you need a little salt or a lot. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right.
It's looking good under that lid.
Yeah.
Sorry you guys can't see it.
We're getting there. We're getting there. So I'm going to lift it up just to show you what's going on. So I have some really nice color developing with the cheese. I want it to sort of get nice and sort of crispy and crumbly.
I'm
And-
realizing patience is important,
Yes.
which I'm not that good at.
Yeah. But again, it should take 5 minutes tops.
Yeah.
From beginning to end. If you like and then you cook it to, your designer's done this for the egg. If you want like a little runny, you can cook a little less. If you want it to cook a little bit more solid, and especially if you need to, right? You cook a little bit more, and so yeah, you cook it till you've done this. When you're ready, I'm ready here. I'm gonna add my tortilla right on top. Okay. And what I love about this,
There's a lot of oohs and ahs.
yeah, it's just in terms of, again, it just makes it so easy with the parchment, but pretty much taking it off, right? Be careful, but just grab one of the corners, and we can just flip it off. And again, like in terms of like cleaning your pan after, this makes it so much easier, right? And so I have my tortilla ready to go. And here is where we're gonna do a little flip, right? So we'll put the pan on top. And you can let it cool down a bit, but it's not that bad. We'll flip it. And then the parchment will come off. And so you have that sort of caramelized cottage. And this is cottage cheese. You still get that ooey, that gooey, that caramelization. You're gonna have a little bit of texture on there as well. And then this is where, again, if you want to throw some, I just have some cherry tomatoes, making it pretty simple on here, but you can put some avocado.
Flexibility is so key, right? Because some days you feel like eating. I mean, we're talking about cancer risk reduction, but we're also talking about managing side effects of treatment and taste changes, whether you can have fiber or not. So you can decide whether the tortilla is going to be a whole grain tortilla or a white tortilla. And then the visual appeal, the way it looks, right? We always talk about, this is appealing to my eye hunger. My mouth is starting to something.
Yes, yeah. So this, like I said, in terms of the ease, the functionality, is it a messy taco? Absolutely, but that's usually a good thing. That's usually a good thing.
Did you heat that taco? I'm missing something in my
So
memory.
After putting it on, the egg, just sort of the residual heat was enough to sort of soften it up. You can do a little toast of it beforehand if you want. With the corn tortillas, I just like to like warm it through. If I use a flour tortilla, then maybe like toasting it up a little bit more to get a little more color on there. You can do that. Or a piece of toast, like put a piece of toast in there, toast it up. Same process, completely up to you. But as long as it's sort of warmed through, then I'm good to go. I'm not going to eat it in front of you right now because that would be embarrassing and messy. But you'll get to try it after. For everyone here at home, you'll have to do it at home. You'll have to make it.
If you do make it, let us know how it goes.
Yes.
Yeah. And send us pictures. We love pictures.
Yeah. So our cheesy, or our cottage cheesy.
Oh, our cottage cheesy. Okay.
Breakfast taco.
Yeah. Beautiful.
All right. Awesome. Any questions? If you do have any questions, I'm going to throw it open here. But if you do have any questions, if you're watching at home, type it in the chat, and we'll answer your questions. Yes, questions here.
I'd like to know if you use regular cottage cheese, which I have, does it take more time?
If you use a regular cottage cheese, the regular cottage cheese is, because of the moisture content, it will be pretty messy. We actually tested it out yesterday. So I would suggest if you don't have a pressed cottage cheese, then use another cheese like a cheddar, like a cheddar cheese or a feta cheese, a drier cheese, and then you do the same process. You sort of make your circle, make your mound, crack your egg in the middle, and it works the same way. A cottage cheese that has a higher moisture content, it doesn't quite work as well. This process, yeah.
Good question.
Yeah, very good question. So if you haven't tried it before, keep an eye out for the pressed cottage. It's one of my favorites. Okay.
We're all going to be flocking to the store, right? Parchment paper, pressed cottage cheese.
Yes.
What's Jeremy's other favorite?
Parchment. Did we say that?
We already said parchment, but we can say it twice. The grater. What do you call it?
No, the rasp.
The rasp. The rasp. Okay. On to recipe number 2. So this is burlati bean and pea soup. When Geremy said burlati, I'm like, what's burlati? And then I remembered, oh, I recognize those beans. I just didn't know what they were called. It was all over our house, being Italian. Okay, so this recipe is a delicious start to a plant-forward way of eating. And this approach is recommended for reducing risk of several chronic conditions, including colorectal cancer. A plant-forward or a plant-based way of eating highlights the goodness of vegetables, fruits, legumes, dried peas and beans, whole grains, but without necessarily eliminating the animal-based foods, right? So you don't have to become vegan. You don't have to go completely vegetarian. You're just changing the ratio of the amount of fruits and vegetables and plant foods in the diet to your animal foods. And the centerpiece of this recipe is going to be legumes, or as we already talked about, we have Romano beans here, burlati beans.
Romano bean is another name for burlati beans.
There we go.
In the grocery store, you'll probably see it as Romano beans. It's the same bean.
So what we can do is impress our friends just by saying one day we're cooking with Romano beans, another day we're doing burlati, I should say. And these plant foods are loaded with fiber, protein, and several health protective compounds that we call phytonutrients, nutrients that you find in plants, or antioxidants. And that will provide a powerful punch to this amazing meal. It also helps protect the health of our colon. And legumes are cost effective, budget friendly, if money is tight. So that's another good thing about it. Over to you.
Wonderful. Okay, so this is a soup that I grew up with. And if someone from my family is watching from home, they probably know that I did not enjoy this soup. Growing up, I wasn't a big fan of beans. But this visual, and so this is the canned version, but the visual of this in the fridge still creates a little PTSD for me. Because I knew it was for dinner. These are the dried version of these canned beans. Okay, I love and we love the convenience of the canned bean. and it's a great nutritional choice.
It's a great nutritional choice, yeah.
But from a convenience point of view, all of that work is already done for you, so you can, absolutely lean on that. I think it's a wonderful pantry staple, a great meal starter, a very quick meal starter. And usually when we do recipes with beans, we tend to lean on the canned bean because of its convenience. But I do want to show you how to do it if you did want to do the dried version as well. In terms of the dried beans, you can find them in the grocery store. Also, mostly, check the back, but almost 99% of the beans you're going to find in the grocery store will be Canadian grown bean as well, which is nice. And what is great about it is the price savings. The canned beans are already a great price saving protein option. This is even more savings in terms of your price for the beans. So it is, again, in the stores forever, it's dried state. So we're gonna soak it, and it doesn't have to be this big. This is just the
My
container.
fridge isn't that big.
Yeah, that I had. Smaller container, but you do want to add enough water to your dried beans.
There's something green floating in there.
I did have a piece of bay leaf in there. Again, I may be more of a mythical tale that it helps to reduce some of the gas.
Interesting.
Causing properties. There are other ways to do that as well, which we'll touch on. But again, it's just the visual, so I threw it in there from my memory. But we're going to add enough water to cover the beans. Your dried beans will rehydrate to about twice the size. Depending on the bean, it can even go triple the size, but I would plan for about twice the size. So for this recipe, it's about 3 cups of beans. You're gonna go for about 1.5 cups of your dried beans, okay? You can do more, and then they freeze really well, and then you've already done the process, so that's also another tip. But essentially, go through the beans that you have. This is one product in its dried form that I would sort through because it comes from a farm. Sometimes you do have stones and twigs and other things in there. So just sort through and make sure you remove any of those items that are not beans. In your container, cover with water, and then in the fridge overnight. Yes?
If you are to freeze them, do you cook them first then freeze them, or do you just soak them and then freeze them?
So, good question. It depends on how far you want to take the process. You can do it at both stages.
Oh.
I would cook it so that it's all done, right? So we're going to soak them overnight, drain. If you can drain the water even 2 times.
Yes, that would be better to kind of get rid of that indigestible
So rinse them and then?
So I would drain this. So during the soaking process, drain it and then cover it with more fresh water and then
Drain it a couple hours later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right before. Yeah. And that soaking and or that draining process.
Yeah, the indigestible carbohydrate that some of us have trouble with, it's called raffinose. You can think of it as rough on the tummy, right? Raffinose. And so by doing this process of covering it with water, draining that water, getting rid of that water, putting fresh water on top, draining it again, you're getting rid of a lot of that raffinose. Same with your canned. We recommend putting this in a colander and then running cold water over it so you can remove that indigestible carbohydrate, raffinose. And I read that you can remove, I think if you also have trouble, if you cook it really well, cook it for longer than recommended, and if you're pureeing it, you can probably reduce the effect by about 75%. So those are just some tips if you find you get a lot of indigestion with dried peas and beans.
Wonderful. So after your soaking process, we're going to drain it and then we're going to cook it. So you cook it fresh water in a pot, cover with fresh water, and cook it until tender. Depending on the bean, it could take 30 minutes to an hour to, if it is an older bean, which means it's been sort of dried for longer, it could be up to 2 hours, right? So you're going to sort of go by texture and taste. These ones here took about 40 minutes until they were nice and tender. And then drain that water, right? So that's another stage in which you want to drain it, and then it's ready to use in your dishes. Okay? You can freeze it at that point, or you can add it to your soups or stir fries, whatever it is, but it's ready to use at that point. You can see it does take some time, right? So this is a process. Yes, you're saving money. Texturally, I think it's better than the canned version, but the canned version is going to take you as long as it takes to open and drain and rinse, right? So you have to just do what works best for you, but this way you have options.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, options. And when you're buying the canned variety, you can look at the nutrition facts table, yes, but I think for this product, I would like you to look at the ingredients and just make sure that the beans is the first thing. And if you need to cut back on salt, you can find no added salt varieties.
Okay, so we have our beans, whether they're dried or from dried beans or from canned beans, and we're ready to start the soup. So this soup consists of a few aromatics. I've got some onion and a little bit of garlic. Onion and minced garlic, and one of my favorites, tomato paste. Okay, so tomato paste, concentrated tomato, very high in umami, very high in the sort of natural form of MSG, essentially, because it has that glutamate in it with a little bit of that salt. So it has this incredible sort of savory flavor boost. This if you want to add make a quick stock or broth, veggie broth, or add like a punch of flavor to your soups or stews. This is awesome. Really, really good product. So for the base, we're adding a couple tablespoons of our tomato paste, onion and garlic in a pan with like a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And I want to cook this down. This is the hardest part of the recipe, is to get this base to a point where it's very concentrated in flavor, okay? And so I've done that here. So you can see, Kobe, you want to zoom in a little bit more? Okay, so we have this onion, it's reduced quite a bit, but we're getting it to the point where you have this really nice sort of crust forming on the bottom, really caramelized, you have that sort of golden brown happening. And it might take like 8 minutes to get to this point of like medium heat, just keeping an eye on it and stirring it. But now I've built this just incredible aromatic base of flavor, right? Which is important if we're cooking with beans, which are not known for their flavor profile, right? So we want to really, really add that nice boost of flavor. So those 3 ingredients are going to give you this really, really wonderful base. Those little caramelized bits, it's stuck on my spoon and a little bit on the bottom of the pan. We call fond, F-O-N-D. This is like supercharged flavor. The only way to really get rid of that fond, not get rid of it, but to incorporate it back into the dish, is by adding some liquid and just sort of scraping it off the bottom of the pan. Don't get rid of it. That is super flavor. That's going to make the dish taste fantastic, okay? So once we have our aromatics at this point, we can go ahead and add our beans. I made one with the dried. I'm going to do one with the canned, just a the version. So we'll add our beans in the pot.
He's already drained them and then he put it back.
Yes.
He's not just putting it straight in.
Yeah, magic of the prep. And then any other flavors, aromas you want to throw in there, go for it. I have some bay leaf. I think the dish works better with rosemary. In your recipes, I've included it as rosemary. I couldn't find any good rosemary, so I'm using thyme today. But this also just shows you how you can substitute, use what you like, use what you enjoy. And so I have some bay leaf, some thyme, a bunch of thyme, and then this isn't in the recipe, but I always like to add, if I have a little piece of dried mushroom, you can find this in grocery stores, and it again, it's just a great way, it's an easy way to just supercharge the flavor of a dish. But this is optional. You can really add it. You can use a dried shiitake, you can use a dried porcini. There's a few different versions that they have. Any of them really add, again, similar to the tomato paste, they're concentrated in that sort of natural glutamate, so it adds this really nice savoriness and flavor to your dish. And you can throw it in as is. I'm going to show you a little trick take a piece of butcher's twine, we just lay everything on top, and then we will give it one little knot tie, and then another little knot tie, just to bundle it all together. And so now we call it sort of like a bouquet garni. And this way I can add it to the dish, and then I can easily remove it so that I'm not fishing for that bay leaf, which is not a nice surprise in a bite, or your thyme, or if you have like your rosemary and stuff like that. And we're gonna put that in, and then just cover it with your veg broth or chicken broth, whatever you are using. And because the beans are already cooked, this will only take pretty much 15 minutes, 20 minutes tops, just until it's nice and soft.
When did you add the tomato paste? Or you haven't?
At the beginning.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I missed
So
that.
your onion, garlic, tomato paste are
At
the
the
first
very
thing.
beginning.
That's
Okay.
that's what creates that fond, that sort of
The
base.
fond.
Yeah.
F-O-N-D.
Yes.
Fond.
The base of
New word for me.
Right.
While you take a drink of water, we talk about plant proteins being an excellent source for us, for our health. However, when it comes to iron, the iron in plant foods isn't absorbed as easily by the body. And some of the people here know that Geremy and I love our power couples. So if you have a plant food like the legumes, the beans that are a rich protein, and it has some iron, and you want your body to absorb more of that iron, couple it with a vitamin C rich food. So the tomato paste not only is enhancing the flavor and getting that rich umami taste, it's also adding some vitamin C. And so the vitamin C from the tomato paste helps to absorb a lot more. I was going to say double, I'm not sure if it's double, of the iron from your beans.
I love it. Yeah, we don't think of our tomato and tomato paste all the time as like a vitamin C option.
Yeah. It's also lycopene. Lycopene's another antioxidant famous for cancer risk reduction.
Love it. Okay, so we're ready to plate. Now, what I'm going to do is first...
That's my favorite tool.
Yes, we'll fish out that bouquet garni so I can find it. There we go. And now this bean soup, I mean, it smells really good. That's probably what you were smelling.
Did you overcome your dislike for them?
I did, of course. Or otherwise I wouldn't be sharing it.
Who knows?
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Did I overcome my dislike? I think
Oh, it
for the
overcomes
beans.
his dislike for it. Yeah.
I love it though.
He put his own twist on it, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so we have this really nice bean soup. Now, the beans will slowly start to release some of that starch, but the trick here to make it a little bit thicker is we're going to ladle some of it out. You can, if you have an immersion blender, you can go ahead and bring it right to your pot and just give it a few pulses, but I want to show you what that looks like. So I'm actually going to take some out. And you can do this too. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can just take a few ladles out, throw it in a regular blender. Or you can take a few ladles out, throw it into like a mug, and just use a fork or like a potato masher or something. And blitz it. So I'm going to take my immersion blender and I want to puree about a cup and a half of the soup. And so what it does is it starts to blend the beans, and you have this really nice sort of thickener that is going to give the dish. You have to do that also for musical effect. Knock the sides. And so now you have this really, really nice sort of thickened base of the soup that we're going to just put right back in.
That was crazy.
So that little extra step is going to give the dish some really nice texture and some extra body, and it's an easy way to sort of thicken up.
Oil in there, right?
Sorry,
There's some oil in there, or just
Oil?
the oil that you fried?
just a little bit of the oil that I use, at the base, and that's it. All right, so we're ready to plate. And again, it's just a very simple bean soup, but by taking a little bit of extra care with those flavors at the beginning, it's going to taste fantastic. And the last thing, now this is also an important step.
I'm curious. Can anybody
This
guess?
is how I always had it, was with a little bit of grated. So this is pecorino cheese. So pecorino is a sheep's-based cheese, which is an aged cheese, but made from sheep's milk, and has this really nice sort of sharpness to it that goes exceptionally well with the bean soup. You can definitely use Parmigiano or any other sort of grated cheese that you like, but just a little bit on top. So now this is bringing back memories for sure. I don't know why I didn't like it, but I'm happy I came around.
I probably like it with some crunchy toasted bread.
Oh yeah,
Fresh
that would be really
bread.
good too.
Yeah.
That would be really good too. All right, if we can zoom in, cool, if you don't mind. That is recipe number 2.
Did you say you could freeze this?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, any soup freezes really well just because of the amount of water in it. It freezes really well. So you can freeze it. We talked about it before. You can use, if you have those like silicone-based muffin tins, sort of ladle it in, freeze it into little pucks, and then you can transfer those pucks into a freezer bag, and then you have your servings ready to go.
Because this would be a nice little snack as well.
Yeah.
The other thing I'll just bring up is that you puree just a little bit of it, but if you do have trouble with digestion, puree the whole thing, and that'll make it easier to manage.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. That's recipe number 2, our borlotti
That looks
bean
amazing,
soup.
guys.
Awesome.
Going back.
Any questions? This one, any questions online from our chat? Good. Awesome.
Great. So moving right along, we always like to end with something just a little sweet. This is a chocolate almond frozen yogurt cup. And this protein-rich dish can be enjoyed at the end of a meal, or it can be enjoyed as a nutrient-rich snack anytime. So if your appetite is poor, sometimes it's overwhelming to eat a lot at one time. So having small amounts is easier to enjoy, and the individual portions in the cups makes it easier to do that. But I wanted to talk a little bit about why we're featuring yogurt. A study was found that long-term calcium intake, about 300 milligrams per day, could have a strong protective effect against cancer, specifically colorectal cancer. So how much calcium do you think is in about 6 ounces of yogurt? It kind of just said it. 300. It's the same amount. So we're talking about adding 300 grams of calcium to the day. You can get that from 6 ounces of yogurt. You can get it from a cup of milk, that's dairy milk, so cow or goat. But you can also get it from your plant versions of milk, as long as they're fortified with calcium and vitamin D. Additionally, we're using a yogurt that the culture includes something called bifidobacteria. So many yogurts have lactobacillus, and some of them also have bifidobacteria. Now, this research is still new, and it's really just one study. They have to do more research on it to confirm this finding. But I thought it was pretty cool that this study found that long-term intake of yogurt, 2 to 3 servings per week, could have a protective effect on a specific type of colorectal cancer. A specific type of colorectal cancer that is bifidobacterium positive. I find it fascinating as we go further into research and looking at cancer, how there are so many different types. and subtypes. So that was that. And so it says that the reason why the bifidobacteria might be beneficial has to do with our gut microbiome. So we talk a lot about the friendly bacteria in our gut and how they can help with our immune system, our brain health. So now so let's enjoy some yogurt.
Yes, lovely. Okay, so this is a nice little treat, nice little snack. Has a little touch of sweetness, but we're still getting some of the benefits from yogurt. We're also going to be using a nut butter, so more protein.
More protein.
Another great protein.
And some fiber. Yeah.
Some fiber as well. And then I guess I mentioned fiber too from some dates.
Definitely.
So 3 ingredients and then something a little extra on top, which we'll get to. So in a bowl, we're going to mix about 1.5 cups of plain yogurt. And I guess if you're looking for that bifidobacterium, you can look on the back because not every yogurt will have
not
it.
every yogurt.
And there you go, perfect.
I'm just trying to see the brand.
Yeah, this is
one?
this one's called Organic Meadow, but this is just the one I found first. Daniela sent me to the grocery store looking for this bifidobacterium yogurt. So this is the one that.
Yeah, that's my text to him on a
There
Friday
are-
night.
yeah.
I have a very, very exciting
Yeah.
life.
Yeah. We need to find the bifidobacterium.
There was a question from Dawn.
Yes.
Is the bifidobacterium the same as a probiotic, or are those two different things?
Yeah, it's considered a probiotic. Very good. Yeah.
All right. So our yogurt in. We're going to add about 4 tablespoons of nut butter. I'm using almond butter here, and I mean you can eyeball it. We're aiming for 4 tablespoons. This is one of those recipes. We're not cooking it. It's a no bake, right?
Wow.
So it's not going to make or break the dish if you have a little more or a little less. Just don't want to lose any. So that's the important thing. So a little bit of that nut butter. Try to use 100% base nut butter, whether it's like peanut butter or almond butter. Just look at the ingredients because some, to make the stirring a little bit easier, they will mix it with like a palm oil or sometimes other things in it. So this is just 100% nuts, which is good.
Some of them say to store them upside down.
Yeah, you could,
Is
but
that-
then make sure that lid is on,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because some of the oil, the natural oil, will start to seep out and make a mess. So yes, it could help to
Okay.
store, or like put like a piece of paper towel or something down first. Some dates. This is going to add some really nice sort of sweetness, some really nice texture. These are just chopped dates. About 1/2 cup in there, and mix it all up. If you want to add like some cinnamon, you can add vanilla.
It smells really
Yeah,
good.
whatever you like. This is just, if I'm making this, I want to make it quick and also do it once to set myself up with a few different snacks, right? So this will make about 16 cups. We tested it yesterday. It's about 16 cups.
When you say cups, you mean
Paper, exactly.
Okay.
Snack cups,
Good.
yogurt cups.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're using, if you have these silicone-based molds, those work really great. You just sort of go ahead and pour them right in. I'm using just the paper muffin molds, pretty simple. Again, I'm not baking this, but we found that if you do have a muffin tin, it just helps with the pouring process so that it's not flopping all over the place.
Probably
And
also easier to remove it.
it
Less
is, yeah.
fiddly.
Yeah, it's a little less, the technical term.
Technically
Fiddly. So about a tablespoon and a half. I don't want to go all the way up. I want to go halfway at most up the side of the liner. Okay? I'll do a couple more just so you have an idea. And then we're going to pop this in the freezer for about 10 minutes, just until it sort of firms up a little bit. Okay? And then once it does, we're going to take it out of the freezer.
And I suppose if you wanted to bump up the protein, you could use like a Greek yogurt, or like if you were looking at protein, Greek yogurt, skyr. Skyr would work.
Yeah.
Skyr is
more
ice.
protein?
Yeah, if you wanted more protein. Yeah, Greek yogurt has double the protein of a regular yogurt. Yeah, I know. Go figure.
Because
I think it's more
Process.
concentrated. Yeah, it's the process that it's made, how it's made. And then skyr, which is an Icelandic cheese, actually. It looks like yogurt, has even more protein in it. So those are, oh, look, they look different.
They do look different. So we went ahead and cheated with the process. But once it firms up for about 10 minutes, you can top it. This is optional, but you can top it with whatever you want. You can top it with like frozen fruit or dried fruits, or my favorite is dark chocolate. So we just melt a little bit of dark chocolate and you just pour some of that dark chocolate on top. Maybe sprinkle a little bit of sea salt on there.
Yeah.
And you have these like awesome little treats / snacks ready to go. And then it will, if you find that it's sticking to the bottom, you can either take like a warm cloth to just like kind of release it, or just give it a little, just a little pop. And then you have these awesome, so you can sort of peel back.
you see that's frozen.
Yeah, so this is frozen, so it's like a little frozen,
Cool.
almost like a chocolate peanut butter cup, or almond. We use almond butter, so like an almond butter cup. But you peel it back, and you can. I have no patience, so I will just grind through the frozen cup like this. But you can, even if you just let it sit out for like a couple minutes, then the paper will come off a little bit easier. But just so you can see, you have like this really nice sort of mixture of the dates and the yogurt and the almond butter in there, and just that little layer of dark chocolate on top. Really nice little treat. Hits that little like sweet tooth, but you're getting some of the extra benefits.
Your 3 o'clock alarm.
Yeah, my 3 o'clock
Good deal.
alarm. Yeah, and that is
Wow.
the last recipe. So, thank you.
Thank
Daniela.
you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Colorectal
Thank you,
Cancer
everyone. Yeah, and thank you, Bunny and Colorectal Cancer Canada. We are back. To get some water. We are
Yes.
back.
3 weeks, the third week of April, and I looked up the date and I forgot.
I think it's the 17th, maybe.
Is it?
It is the 17th.
17th?
Yes.
Yeah.
I know that because I'm giving my thumbs up. From the back, we have one of our incredible students from George Brown College, Kobe. Kobe's here doing his externship with us. He was one of my
He just has
past.
to lean down.
Yeah, he's gonna lean down. He's too tall. He's too tall for the print. We'll make sure we adjust the height accordingly. Kobe's gonna be sharing one of his amazing recipes with us next month's class. So be sure to join us on the 17th. It's gonna be a lot of fun. And for all of the resources that Bunny shared today from Colorectal Cancer Canada, if you're here in person, obviously you can come check it out. Online, we'll make sure to provide all the links so that we can go to the website and any other events going on. I saw some images of the giant colon on tour, which, yes, which is so exciting. I talked to I think one of the individuals that helps us to inflate it. It is a process to get that inflated and ready to go.
Big process.
Yeah, but it's incredible. Yeah. So thank you again to Colorectal Cancer Canada, Colorectal Cancer Awareness Month, and Nutrition Month.
Nourish to flourish.
Nourish to Flourish. These recipes, again, if you're not here in person, you have them. If you're online, these recipes will be posted on our website tomorrow, so you have access to them. And we'll make sure to share them. I don't think I have anything else. Daniela, Geremy, Kobe, thanks everyone.
Thank you very much.
What's the website?
Our website?
Yeah.
So elixirkitchen.ca. So ELLICSR is Elixir, and kitchen.ca. That's where we have all of our recipes, and then the videos are on the YouTube channel. And you can just type Elixir Kitchen.
So if you picked up the recipes, Sylvia, the